It's me, Marilia. So I'm back here at the desk with my astrological chart. And what I would like to do today is review astrology as a forensic investigation tool. And the case I'm going to focus on today is, of course, the University of Idaho murders, because that happens to be at the forefront of all the news currently. And I would like to see if, in fact, astrology can aid at all in profiling a potential suspect in this case. So let's go. I want to call to your attention an astrological chart. If you are not familiar with astrology at all, this is not a place that I can go into the beginning entry-level astrological overview. I do have another video planned for that, but you can Google that online and understand the basics. Pretty much there is a wheel, an astrological wheel, that's used as the chart. It is divided into 12 sections, so you can think of it like a great big pie in the sky, divided into 12 sections. Each section contains a constellation of stars, and each one of those constellations has been assigned a lord or a ruler, and those are planets. So the planets travel through the zodiac wheel as they orbit the sun, and they spend so many days in each constellation. And so what you see here, all these things that you see here, all my magnets, represent the sun, the moon, and the planets. And they fall, depending on where they're traveling, in different sections of the zodiac. And astrologers consider the domicile or the constellation that the planets are falling in, along with the planets and the relationships they form along the way, to make assumptions about certain things. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to put my chart down, but I'll be holding it up intermittently. The first thing that I want to call attention to is the first house. This chart was drawn up for the day, the hour, and the location that the event took place in. And of course, the event this time is the homicides. So based on that, the rising sign, or the sign that indicates the event, we call the first house. Now, there's no planets in that first house, but right under it, in the second house, in the place of the things that are valued, most of us value where we live. We value the people that are in our lives, our friends, our family, and so on and so forth. So the first house happens to be Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus happens to be in the second house of values. So we know that this house attacked the things that were valued by a group of people. And the reason we know it's a group is because Mercury, along with major planets or luminaries, always represents a group. It's not a couple, it's a group. A group is more than two, and it can go on from there. Having Mercury here along with Venus lets us know a couple of things. That it was a group of women, and because the sun is also there, they had a strong connection to one another, but the sun also represents a male energy. Not just one, just the male energy. Now, we also have here the South Node. The South Node is that place that is assigned as the place of things that are left behind, or things that are brought in psychological, emotional baggage that is brought in from our past experiences. Some people refer to it as past lives. I am merely reading what this chart indicates based on the classical, traditional symbolism assigned to each one of these planets and the relationships they form to one another. So right here, there's a focused energy, a very concentrated energy. It's forming several conjunctions. Conjunctions are uniting, unifying energies that work well if the planets like each other. If they don't like each other, they don't work. But these planets are all very congenial. So this attacked, among other things, something that was very valuable to the people. The value of being congenially connected to one another, to their place of residence, to where they received their nourishment, food. This is also a place, this second house or second domicile, which is naturally ruled, so we'll say ruled, by Venus, who happens to be in there, because this is the house of Taurus. But right now, the sign that's on the ascendant of that second house is not Taurus, but its opposite sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is the sign of death, the sign of the dead, of the things that belong to other people, coveting the things that belong to other people, desiring the things that belong to other people, whether that is their physical possessions, their physical body, sexually, their friendships, their lives. There is a very vindictive, jealous, revengeful, and obsessive energy in this cusp, on this night, at this hour, when this gathering occurred. Now, if we move further along, right here, we go into the fourth house. The fourth house is typically the house ruled by Cancer, and it represents our deepest, most private place, our sanctuary, our endings, our home, our comfort zones, and also our grave. So it's the place of midnight. This is the place of sunrise. And at sunrise, there was nothing rising because it was empty. At the place of midnight, there was the planet of death and destruction. Moving past the fourth house, we move into the fifth house. The fifth house is naturally ruled by Leo, but we see that let's go back a minute. On the cusp of the house of Cancer, the place of endings and of death, and the house of the grave, the sign on the cusp is Capricorn. Capricorn is absolutely the Grim Reaper. Capricorn is stern and cold and detached and aloof and unexpressive, unaffectionate, doesn't relate well to emotions. And with Scorpio there, that is a very, very intense energy and a very dark, heavy energy that is dealing with deep, dark matters of death and destruction and endings. When we move away from there, we're trying to find something a little bit less intense, less heavy, and we encounter Aquarius, an energy that creates an essence of excitement, of change, of detachment, of friendship, of gathering, of socializing. This is the fifth house. It's also the natural house of Leo. It's party time. But who's sitting in the party? The Lord of the cusp of the fourth house. And it is bringing in that darkness, that it's a damper on the party. This is an old, dark, dry, callous energy. It's like, oh, the party pooper. It's like that thing that happens that ruins everything. That's what that is. It wants to stop the party, and rather than have it be a free and open experience, it wants to make it strict and constrained to certain social decorum, and it's just a bummer. It's old, it's stagnant. It doesn't want to change things. It doesn't want to move into anything future. It likes the old. This next house is the house of Virgo. Now, Virgo deals with how a person dresses, where they work, health, small animals. And who do we have here? We have Jupiter, the expansive planet, and Neptune, the planet of liquid and the planet of rain, oceans, water, but also the planet of confusion, drug, fantasy, delusion. You can't believe what you see kind of planet. And because Jupiter's there with it, there's a lot of it. A lot on someone's mind that totally consumes them into a fantasy world. And you move along from there and you notice that the house of the killer is empty. But the ruler of the house of the killer, so the ruler of the seventh house, is Aries. And Aries is ruled by Mars. And where do we find Mars? We find him here, detached in the ninth house of higher thoughts and universities and foreign exchange students and foreigners and foreign travel. So here, keep that in mind. He sits here in this house and he's retrograde. So Mars retrograde does not have a comfort zone being there. That's the house of Gemini. Gemini is already detached a bit and not as emotional. So he's got a problem communicating and managing anger. So there's an anger management issue that keeps reoccurring and having to be revisited by this in this chart, because it's a reoccurring negative energy that is confusing because the person can't get it right. Sitting there in the ninth house, also something to know about is that it is detached, and Mars is not necessarily the most touchy-feely person. Mars is aggressive sex. That's pretty much it. There's no emotion involved in it. There's just the gratification of a sexual act or of whatever act they are engaged in. They are not emotionally invested in. Now, before we got to Mars, right here in the eighth house of, again, death and destruction, ending, and things that belong to other people, we have Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is things that catch you by surprise. They're sudden, they're unexpected, they come at you. You didn't have time to plan or organize. They just happened. The opportunity was there, and this energy just comes busting through. Well, guess where it is the 8th house opposite the 2nd house. So this energy, this very forceful energy, this energy has to find a release. It's like an atom bomb ready to explode, and it has found a release right here in the house of what other people value. And so this group is the target of this energy that's being released, and it's explosive and destructive. Now, let's keep going, and then we'll come back and try to analyze this a little closer. The next planet that we come to, and it's at the highest point of the chart. So let's start again with this is sunrise, and the sun isn't coming up anymore here. This is midnight, and the planet of death is there. This is sunset right here, and the sun isn't setting anymore because there's nothing there. But this is noon. It's the highest point in the chart where the sun is at its peak and its strongest on this day. And the moon represents a couple of things. It represents women, emotion, mothering. It represents the dogs. So because it's at such a high, prominent position in this chart, dogs are prominent here. So are women, and so is the mothering, nurturing element. Now let's start again here. We already see that the target of this explosive energy is directed at this group and what they value the most: their lives, each other, their home. This is triggered by this planet here in the house of nightclubs and celebrations. Out of place, Saturn. Saturn doesn't like to have fun and celebrate, even though Saturn co-rules Aquarius. It is going to work alongside Uranus and empower it to release even more of its explosive energy right here. And Saturn is not a loving energy. It's a very cold and detached energy. It's the body and the bones. So here you have the desired, what other people have, desiring what other people value, desiring to destroy what other people value. You have death visiting their house. And in the place of excitement and fun, you have the representation of the body and bones. And here you have the mental fantasy, the fantasizing, the working on the mind, the just becoming obsessed and ill with wanting to work this out and releasing it all in here. So here's your trigger. Mars here has a strange little deadly configuration with some of these other planets. So this energy from here to here is, so this is Scorpio side. So this is opportunity. So death has found an opportunity to attack what is most precious to this group. Jupiter and Neptune are, let's see, 30, 60, 90, 120. Making this person's desire to have or destroy what other people value out of control, disproportionate desire to do that. Saturn, 30, 60, 90, is a square aspect. That is anger, tension, hatred, wanting to fight, wanting to battle it out, obstacles, just total disgruntled anger, hate. That's what this energy is. And it filters through Pluto before it gets here. Filters through death, so the body and bones, filters through death, targets what other people value. Then you have Uranus here that attacks them from here. This is an opposition. It's 180 degrees. An opposition is this energy opposes everything that they value and everything that they stand for. Totally opposes it. This is because there is an inner conflict within the killer. See, the killer is stuck between this inner conflict, this sick obsession, this uncontrollable desire and fantasy to play it out. And he does that right here in the 8th house by attacking what other people value. He wants to destroy what other people value. And here you have this square to Mars, which shows that there's no empathy, no understanding, no sense of compassion, but a very surgical approach. Mars also represents instruments like knives, scissors, needles, ice picks, weapons of war. Uranus represents explosives, which is baffling in this particular case because evidently there were not suspected to have been any guns involved. However, this energy feels like a gunshot at this everything that is valued here by this group. Because this planet, the moon, is at the height of this chart, it represents the women. So to me, from my way of reading this, I would say that the women were the target. And the women were the target because 30, 60, 90, 30, 60, 90, 30. This individual, this killer, had a constrained relationship with women, maybe having something to do with his own mother issues, with his own mother. This fantasy that he fed into, that he was overcome by, just propelled him to do violence. And because these are sharp instruments, we would assume that that's why he fantasized about stabbing these people and making it bloody and gory, because Mars is bloody. Now, this is the 6th house, which releases into the 3rd house. But as you can see, there's nothing in the 3rd house except that this is the neighborhood, the areas where the targets are familiar, and so is the killer. So what does all of this mean? The women were targeted because the killer wanted to destroy everything they valued, because he desired to be part of them, or he had an obsession with them. There was always the intent to kill. This is not an accidental killing. This is a very targeted, precise killing. From my view of this killer had observed them in the places where they went to party, like bars, and also where they went to eat, restaurants, food sources. So he had, I don't know if that's where he first encountered them or if he frequented the same places simply to watch them. This killer might be a little older than them, but he has done this before because this is old age wisdom, so this is not a newcomer to this game. And he has killer instincts. He's just the Grim Reaper himself. He's just a killer, which makes me believe that this isn't the last time he'll do this. And it may not be the first time he's done it. He is overcome easily, especially when there's alcohol involved. So alcohol or drugs, not good for this individual because they release this very explosive energy, and it all aligns for him. So if it all aligns for him and he sees that he has a way to release all of that has accumulated and he has suppressed, he will do that, and he will do it again and again because he can't control. This is an uncontrollable urge he has. So this will happen again. Knives appear to be, in this case, his weapons of choice because he's familiar with how to use them. He has a deep knowledge and absolutely has mother issues. So my take on it is that this is not the first time this person has struck. This person likes guns. This person likes knives, is familiar with them, knows how to use them, is precise like a surgeon. Maybe someone with a hunting background, absolutely a military background. I believe that they came prepared. They cloaked themselves. They came prepared and they transformed. So they came dressed for this occasion so that they would not have any blood on them. They probably wore heavy, thick gloves, so when they used that weapon, that it would not, their hands wouldn't slip and they'd be cut. So they came prepared. They planned this. And they also is a sense that they had been watching these girls, probably from online, maybe following their online social media activity. He's done it before. He did it this time. He'll do it again. He doesn't have empathy. He knows how to use a gun. It is premeditated. He is not a healthy individual. Also, I don't show it here, but somewhere around here, the only thing that is there in the house of the killer is Chiron, who is represented by it's an asteroid, and it's represented by the mythological wounded healer. So it's a wound that does not heal. So there could be something, injury sustained on their thigh that may be either a very deep scar or maybe even a limp, or somehow or another their body was impaired in that area. It could also be emotional, psychological impairment or tattoos. So I would look for somebody with tattoos either on their hands or feet, an injury to one or the other thigh, perhaps a limp. But this person has issues with dealing with their sexual urges. So they can't deal well with their own sexuality or their sexual urges. Their sexual life or urges do not express themselves in a normal manner. They are undone by sexuality, and they are triggered by the way a person dresses, by the way women dress, and how they behave in public, whether they party. All of that triggers them. He is angered by their freedom, and he targets to destroy it, although he covets it. I hope that helps. That's my use of astrology for forensic investigation, and that's what I will be doing in my gumshoe section of my channel. I hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think? Have you been following this case? Have you been, reviewing all of the evidence so far? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with the investigators and who they've ruled out? Because I, for one, they say that there was a little dog that was skinned within the neighborhood, and the police have said that that's not connected to this crime. But I question that, because to me that might be like almost a calling card, like something to announce, I'm about to do this. That's my thoughts on that. Also, I'm not sure, but I think that this person has interacted and has some attachment or connection to where these girls worked, the restaurant they worked in, or the places that they frequented to obtain food, especially places they went together as a group to obtain food, and the places where they went to party. So this person was offended by the women partying freely in bars. Very sick individual. There was nothing that these girls or this young man did that was their fault. This is just life in today's world. But this individual came from a different background, has a different set of beliefs, and his mind is sick and obsessed with that. There might be some, religious or political elements adding to his confusion, because Jupiter is the law and politics. Neptune is religion and spirit. So he just is a rather fucked up individual and a dangerous one. And I would be very careful. That's my take on this. See you, Side Boomer. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed my take. I hope this recorded well. And I'd be very interested to find out what you think. Please leave a comment and share your thoughts. Maybe there's something I didn't think of or that I overlooked. Maybe you can point that out to me. If you enjoy this, let me know that, and I'll do more of these segments. Please consider liking and subscribing to this channel so that the algorithms will pick me up and I'll be able to do more of this. Bye now.